Hey there. Before we get started, I want to let you know that part of this conversation includes some mature discussions that might not be so appropriate if you have children around. So you might want to put in some earphones or wait until you're alone to watch at least the first half of this conversation. Hey there, welcome. I'm Dali, the host of the Dalitalks show, where I share my knowledge and valuable information in hopes to inspire you to reach your goals, overcome challenges, and so that you know that you're not alone. Today's guest is Lisa Velazquez. Lisa Velazquez is an intuitive love coach, dating and relationship expert, a certified sex therapist, certified educator, and a certified facilitator for preventing adolescent pregnancy. Lisa holds a master in clinical psychology from Columbia University. She's the founder of Lisa Talks Love, where she helps passionate single women align with the love they desire from a place of self-value. Her mission is to cultivate a community of women around the world to live well, date wise, and love sexy. Without further ado, here's Lisa. Hi there, Lisa. Thank you so much for coming on to the Dalitalks show. How are you doing today?
I'm wonderful, Dolly. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here with you and support your community.
Thank you. Yeah, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while now. But before we dive in, would you please go ahead and give us a little background of who you are, what kind of experience you have, and what led up to where you are now?
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. It's been a long journey, but I will do my best to make it short for the audience. So I'm Lisa Velazquez. I am the founder of Lisa Talks Love, where I am a love coach, speaker, and a ladypreneur. I am a certified sex educator, a certified sex therapist, and I'm certified to be a facilitator for adolescent pregnancy. So this is a great topic that I'm happy to support you with today. Supporting Latina moms with self-love and supporting Latina girls with self-love. So it's something that's really been dear to my heart. I support passionate women to realign with the love they desire. Prior to becoming an entrepreneur and doing this work, I actually ran 6 different programs for teen pregnancy prevention in the Bronx, New York City. So this is near to my heart. It's where it all started. And I would even say that it started further back because growing up Latina, we're really much taught to be, I want to say, little women, right? So even though we're girls and we don't have the autonomy of adults, we are taught to be women. We are taught what our roles are in our families, right? We are taught to support the men, our uncles, our cousins, our brothers, right? And that's a really big role and a lot of pressure to put on girls. And the role of relationships most times is a lot of pressure because you kind of don't feel like you have a say in how that goes because we're a lot of the time taught that men lead that, but women are in charge of the success of it, right? So if someone else is in charge of the success of something, if we're in charge of the success, why are we not leading? And why are we not leading with our own values? So I really had a problem with that growing up. And for me personally, I have a really big extended family. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm from New York. I was born in New York. And I remember a story from when I was 15 years old in a peer leadership program. And my cousin, I have so many cousins. My cousin was in school with me. He was my age. He's a boy. And I remember the conversation was about virginity. And I said, I don't agree. And let me say this, I'm raised Catholic. And I literally was taught to wait to save your virginity till you were married. Now, I had a lot of questions about that. Not questions because I wanted to have sex. And I don't think it's wrong for a teenager to feel that way because that's a natural feeling. But I had questions. And my main question was in the peer leadership group, I don't get it. I don't understand, why do we have to wait for, why do we have to save ourselves for them if they don't save themselves for us?
Yes.
And why does that person get to determine my value based on something they don't want me doing, but they can go do the exact same thing, right? And their value isn't diminished. So that was a big thing for me. And my cousin was like, I never even thought about it like that, because they don't think about it. They don't need to think about it. So from then on, I became a peer sex educator, educating kids about, safe sex practices and condoms, not about how to have sex. But if you know teenagers, they're going to make their own choices. But the important thing is that you educate them. This is me at 15 years old. And from there, I just became an advocate for healthy relationships. By the time I got to college, the population of my college was about, I think it was about 44% Latino and 60% women. And at the time I was in college, I do remember being an advocate, and a lot of young women would come up to me to ask me for sex advice. So, because I was known for giving people condoms, having like a little basket. But what I realized listening to those stories, the stories were never about sex. The stories were always about being disempowered in their relationships. There was inequality in those relationships. They didn't feel safe to speak up about what they did not want to do sexually, what they were not ready to do in the relationship. So they were asking tips to be cool, which I felt was not going to support them because I believe it's inauthentic. So for me, I educated them on looking at, you're in a disempowered relationship. This person isn't respecting your sexual boundaries. They're not respecting your body, and they're not respecting the fact that you want a career and you want to finish school and you have plans. So having unsafe sex, you can't even trust the person that you're with because they just disclose the person being untrustworthy. So my point is, I realized that Latinas, because that's who was coming to me, are going through the issue of being disempowered in their relationships. And that same disempowerment is all being put on their shoulders. It's not being put on the shoulders of the men they choose to be in relationships with. So I chose to be someone that would empower Latina girls and Latina women to be empowered in all their relationships with themselves, their friends, especially their romantic partners as well. And now their parents, that's a whole other story. But really having them show up and speak up for themselves in a way that it would teach people how to treat them. And that's really what I really want to get into today, like how you treat yourself and how you teach others to treat you and how you set that example.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love this already. There's so much that you said that I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay, so you were telling me at age 15, you had done research and you were already pretty much influencing and helping provide information about sex to your peers.
Yes.
That
There
is,
was
yeah, that is powerful and that is amazing, especially because at that age, most of us are very shy and we are scared to ask questions because we are taught to suppress our sexuality because it's a bad thing until you're with your husband. And even I feel like even when you're married, you have to be like very private about it and not show that side of you, which is that's a whole nother topic, but
It
but
definitely is.
that is amazing. I love that. The other
Thank
thing that you said is something that resonates with me, and I'm sure with a lot of women or girls watching this right now, that you feel like, hey, wait a minute, how come you get to do that and that's okay? And if I do it, I'm considered less than. I remember I was so small, but I remember I that thought came into mind, and the way that I worded it was, "Why do I have to take lower standards for somebody? Why can't I find a virgin guy if I'm gonna be a virgin? You know?"
you. Yes.
So yeah, I felt so screwed at the beginning. So, like, wait a minute, this is so unfair. I mean, aside from many other things, I felt like was just unfair, just being, a female. So then you go to college and you continue this. So what did you study in college?
I actually have a bachelor's in legal studies and certification in Puerto Rican Latin American studies. So because when I was in high school, a teacher assigned me to be that resident sex educator. So teachers were paying attention to me.
Wow.
And I was very active in student government because I was a very vocal child. But when I got to college, I didn't end up going to law school because of my experience with being the resident sex educator or the resident sex therapist. I say that with quotes because I really wasn't giving sex therapy. But in our community, if you know someone is knowledgeable in the subject, you already put the label on them. Like, that's la doctora, like that's the person you go to, because we trust our people. So that's one thing I remember, like, I'm not a sex therapist, but I can listen to you and give you my opinion. And what I was doing was being a compassionate person. The reason why I went into this industry is because I'm really big on community building, and I'm really big on being a compassionate leader. I think it's very important that we make space for people to be heard and not be judged and be supported. So I always supported young Latinas and young Latinos and young Black Americans as well, because my students were also Black. They would come to me for this information and I would give it to them, and I would, give them advice. And a lot of the advice was about slowing down in their relationships, about being present to the other person's needs, not just, and then also being present to what your needs are, and are you vocalizing those needs? So like really getting into those things with them. So I changed my goal of going to law school because of that experience. I said, I want to be a sex therapist. I'm realizing that people aren't listening to each other, and I want to be a sex educator. So I ended up getting a master's in clinical psychology from Columbia University. And from there, I ended up taking a full-time position in working with a Latino organization where I actually took time off the second semester of school in grad school. I took time off to do the work, and it was a lot of work. So I ran the teen pregnancy prevention program in 6 different high schools in the Bronx. So we're supporting Latino and Black students and their families. So there was family counseling involved, and Latino parents. There was a Latina mom, God bless her. She came up and was like, "Why are you teaching my child about sex?" But it's a consent form they have to sign. The parents had to sign a consent form. It's like, we're not teaching your students to have sex, or your son to have sex. We're teaching your son medical and information health practices to protect them from getting a disease, and being informed on how to speak to people and their self-esteem and their body image. Like, so anything body related, and you put sex there anywhere, a Latino parent is going to be like, wait a second.
Yeah.
And I know, because I come from a very traditional family. So there are things that they are going to bring up, and we really put that parent at ease. And it was 2 parents. It was a step parent and the mother, but the mother was flipping out. But I knew what to say to the mother, because I get it. I'm like, I know what the problem is. I understand. So we talked through it. And she was a single mom, and I completely understand the passion she had for speaking up about her son's education. I think all parents should do that. And I'm proud that she came in, and she didn't speak any English, and me and my staff were bilingual, so we were able to, support her. But I love that she came in regardless and wanted to speak to us. And that's what parents should do. But you should also look through and read through the education, and sit down with the teacher or the counselor and get all the answers, because we're trying to protect your child. A lot of the sex educators, certified sex educators, are really trying to prevent your child from having a teen pregnancy that they're definitely not ready for. That's definitely going to slow them down in their educational process. Not everyone has the resources and support to be a parent as a teenager. We don't recommend it. I don't recommend it. If you've been through it and you've succeeded, wonderful. But we know in our society, there are things that, that we don't have. And children should be allowed to be children, because the suicide rates, I was telling you about a survey that was supported by the Center of Disease Control in 2017, the Youth at Risk Survey. Let me get the survey. I just wanted to see it for a second. I want to exit the full screen because I actually want to get the name correct. So in 2017, the Youth Risk Behavior Surveillance Survey administered by the Center for Disease Control and Prevention for people ages 10 to 24. 1 in every 10 Latinas have attempted suicide in the past year, and that was in 2019. But I'm saying that survey was done in 2017. Regardless, the reasons, give me a second, I'm zooming back in with you, a bigger screen. So because that's happening, we have to look at the way we parent and educate teens, our girls. It's really important that we look at what are the pressures that they are experiencing that have them choose to contemplate ending their lives. Right? And a lot of it throughout the research and throughout the work that I've done, it's because there is the pressure of being treated as though you're a woman without the rights of being an adult. So you're being treated like you have these responsibilities now that you have your period. That's a whole other topic. That because you're able to become pregnant because of biology does not make you an adult. Okay, it does not make you an adult. It happens when sometimes it happens when you're 9, and it can happen up to the age of 12, but that does not make you an adult. So the pressures they put on the girls, right, to protect their virginity, but then they also put them in these positions where, in our culture, where you need to step up and be like the woman of the house, become like the woman, but you don't have a right to privacy, you don't have a right to autonomy, you don't have a right to speak up when you feel there's an injustice against you within your family, if your brother or your cousins or your uncles, or you're catering to people who are grown adults and you're the child.
Right.
So there's this confusion of where you're not even being seen, heard, or valued. You're just like this role. And and then and then you feel like you don't even exist. So then why exist? And then now, in the country right now, add the pressure of immigrants fearing for their lives because of the corruption we have in government right now. So the girls are looking at the pressures that their mothers are going through, and they're internalizing. Both parents, if there are both parents, regardless which guardian is there, they're internalizing because they know the role they're taught to step into, right? Some of them have lost parents, have lost siblings. So there's just this ridiculous, unfair amount of pressure on these girls that would have them contemplate that. So we need to pour into our girls. We really need to look at how we can support them and have them be seen and honored and valued.
Yeah, definitely. I'm so happy to hear you touch on so many stereotypes really that are followed. And I think that a lot of families, whether they're Latinx or other, most families I've noticed are very traditional when it comes to sexuality and other things. So what you said about, you are stuck in the middle pretty much. You're a child, but be a mature child, be like a woman, but don't be all the way like a woman. And I think that it also affects the self-confidence as when you do become that adult woman.
You just said something so important. I'm going to jump in and then you probably remember the thought. You take the silencing of your values, your thoughts, and your character and who you think you're supposed to be into adulthood. So when you go into adulthood, you're very timid, right? You can have a career and you can be a PhD and still not speak up for yourself in professional settings, still not speak up for yourself in your romantic relationship, still not speak up for yourself among your family. So that's what you take with you. You take that disempowerment with you.
I remember having a conversation with a friend too, who was very, very religious, and she was a wonderful person. But I remember her saying, I just could not be intimate with my new husband because I didn't know what was normal and I didn't feel comfortable because I'd never allowed myself to be that way. So for women who enter that space, how do you help them? Like, what tips would you give them to try to, I guess, be more at ease, despacito, because you can't just jump into it, It's probably shocking if you just dive right in.
I think it would be. So this is the thing, and this is like really why I got into it for women, was because of what you just said. There's the part where you're no longer a girl. You are a grown woman and you deserve to understand your body and you should deserve to understand what gives you pleasure. So it's really about being comfortable with your own body. And the hard thing about that is that you are dealing with letting go of the guilt and shame for even being a sexual being. Right? So embracing that part of yourself. And it's interesting because, not all sex leads to pregnancy. So it's interesting when Latina mothers charge after their daughters because they think sex is going to equate pregnancy, and it doesn't, because we're not taught to use condoms. We're not taught to make there a barrier in our minds or in our culture, or not in my mind, but like in the mind of the culture, sex is for procreation. Women are not supposed to see sex anything else than procreation. And it's an evolution that we're on this call right now. We're on this interview because the biggest part about it is that we're not even taught we're supposed to be educated. We were taught that what we provide to the culture and our families is domestic responsibilities and sexual responsibilities to our partner and child rearing. That's what we're taught. We're not taught to be educated in the sexual area because that would mean that, we're not respectable women, right? And how do you know how to do that? Who were you with? Who taught you to do that? So there's right away that if you know anything about your own body, some man taught it to you.
Right.
right? Or you've been doing this a lot. What does that mean about you?
Right.
So there's a man is not going to teach a woman about her own body. She's supposed to teach it to herself. But when you're taught to never even embrace yourself in that way, you need to start looking at what makes you feel good. That's a whole other topic, but what makes you feel good? Touching your own body, getting yourself in the mood, what makes you feel sexy, tapping into what makes you feel sexy, what makes you feel beautiful, what makes you feel desired. And you can do those things privately. And I know the controversial topic around that is gently touching your body and learning to masturbate your own body, to masturbate for your own pleasure, for you to achieve orgasms on your own, to understand your body and to give yourself pleasure and a form of release. And I know that's a controversial topic by itself. A lot of people don't even feel comfortable talking about it, but if you're asking, quite honestly, that's what you need to do. Like any woman listening needs to learn to masturbate, right? And touch and be comfortable touching her own body. And I'm telling you, I have talked to my 40-year-old clients who are in their early 40s who have never touched their own body. And when I discussed it with them, they were like, I don't know if I can do that. That's too uncomfortable. And I'm like, and I get it. And I'm like, but I want you to think about what you just said. Yet you're talking to me about the last sex partner you had, your ex-boyfriend, who you said, I don't know if I can do anybody else because I don't know if the sex is going to be that good. But you are fully embracing having sex with a man. But you are cutting yourself off to a sexual connection to yourself as a woman. To yourself. So you're equating your sex life based on a man. You're not even giving yourself the space to honor yourself. So that's how detached we are from our own bodies, from our own selves. We are almost like shaming that part of ourselves.
It's weird how when I have encountered a young girl who, I remember in the Army, this other girl and I, we were about 20, 21. And I remember she was very worried and she was crying because she thought she was pregnant. And I said to her, well, why don't you just get on birth control if you're not pregnant right now, you know? And she said, oh no, I couldn't do that. I said, well, wait a minute. Why not? You're having sex. So she said, oh no, my mom would kill me. I'm like, well, your mom would kill you if you're having sex, you know, if she knew. So it's that mentality that we have. And it is the mentality of not empowering yourself. Do what you're being told, but then you're sneaking around and you're following your body's desires or emotions. And then we follow them. We say, oh my gosh, I just did wrong. This was wrong. And then you're guilty about it. So you're not fully, I think you don't fully enjoy the whole experience because of that, of like, oh, you did wrong. You shouldn't have done that.
Exactly. And I just think about how she was like, I can't get on birth control. My mother would kill me. And I'm like,
yeah,
what would kill you for not letting the natural process of having a baby? Is that what you're saying? Or is it proof like that you're doing this? So it's like, you're not, please let me be clear about this. I am not saying I want teenagers having sex.
Yeah.
But I am clear that teenagers choose to do what they want. But you also have to give them freedom in expressing what they're going through to be able to get through to them. Because I didn't have sex at 15. So I just was curious as to why I had to devalue myself for someone else. And I was really more curious about talking about that. And I think that's the biggest part, you know, and I think that I didn't lose my virginity to Prince Charming and a perfect person, but I still loved myself after. And I was, you know, upset, you know, I had a lot of told different things, you know, relationships. But then I just realized, like, I still am who I am and I still respect myself. And that's what you want your daughter to do. You want her to lose virginity to anyone who doesn't respect her and she doesn't feel respected and she doesn't respect herself. Because she could have sex at 27 and lose her virginity and feel disempowered.
Right.
It's really about educating girls about how they make that decision, because you're not going to be there when they make a decision. So you want to teach your daughters to make that decision from a place of, I'm not just going to have sex with you because you're my boyfriend or you think I'm supposed to have sex with you. Because that's a lot of the peer pressure boys do. I'm your man, you're my woman, you're supposed to do this. And it's like, no, that's not the way it works. I'm not ready to do that. We're not adults. We're not fully committed. And I think that that's the real big thing. Like, the other thing I wanted to say is that I think it's really important that we teach our girls to set goals for themselves. I think that when we teach girls to set goals, they are less hyper focused on relationships, romantic relationships where they can get pregnant. So right now those relationships are with boys. Okay. I'm not talking about, same gender relationships, same sex relationships, because they're not going to get pregnant in those relationships. But if they're having a relationship with a boy, and even if a girl is, feeling that she is a lesbian and she is gay, some girls try to have sex with boys to cover up that part of themselves out of shame for admitting that they're gay, that they're lesbians. So you have to look at the behaviors. So I would always say for girls, what do you like about yourself? Right? Let's make a list with things that you like about yourself, and the things that make you feel happy, the people in your life that support you, who you can go to in troubled times, and really look at those things, because when you look at what you like about yourself, you find ways to celebrate yourself. And if you look at who you're surrounding yourself with and they're supportive people, that's amazing, that you can go to them. But if you start to have the conversation that you don't like yourself, what's going on? Why are you coming to that conclusion? What about you is making you not like yourself? So, go to a person that you feel safe talking to, whether that's your mom, your sister, your cousin, your madrina, your titi, your tia, whoever you feel safe talking to about that, or a school counselor that you feel safe talking to about how you feel about yourself if you don't feel good about yourself and who you are. I think it's really important to have positive self-talk, and moms, teach your daughters positive self-talk, because how they talk to themselves is how they create what they believe and what they feel about themselves. And that is going to have them show up differently, their mentality, that quiet, that voice in their head. Now, you also, as moms, want to look at how you feel about yourself, right? Do you feel good about yourself? Are you surrounded by people that uplift you, that you could talk to, that you can confide in? Does your daughter see you talking to yourself in a healthy way? Because they're watching everything that you do. So it's very, very important that you speak positively to yourself, and do that in front of them. And are you speaking positively to your daughter, right? Because it's learned behavior. She's hearing it from somewhere. So are you speaking to your daughter with kind words, or are you regurgitating a lot of the language that you internalize for negative self-talk of your own? Or are you internalizing and sharing with her and speaking her into a manner that's only upholding negative traditions with the way and negative cycles of way we're talking to girls in our culture? I think that it's extremely important that as little girls, teenagers, you need to reflect on like what you like about yourself, and moms need to do the same thing. And practicing self-care, right? With all this pressure that we have on ourselves to be grown women when you are 14 years old, when you are just a teenager, 16, 17, 18, they are still figuring out what they want to do with their life. It is not really a responsibility to take on the whole home and the female roles within that home.
Yeah, ooh, okay, there's so much. Okay, let's backtrack a little bit, because you mentioned something about being 15 and stuff. And one thing that I remember that I absolutely just hated, and I still do, when I turned 14, a guy walked up to me and he said, "Oh, ya eres mujer." I'm like, "Oh, you're a woman now." And I thought, are you kidding me? Like, it bothered me so much because the way he said it was kind of like, "Oh, you're available now." And it was yucky. It was so yucky. But I feel like we don't have that conversation in our Latinx community, because the quinceañera, it does signify something big. And I have noticed that a lot of young girls don't stop and think, wait a minute, let's think of the history of what a quinceañera was. It has changed. And though it still carries some of those nuances from back then, I mean, back then you were pretty much, a quinceañera was the announcement of, hey, this person's now available for negotiations with another territory, another country, or another family. It was like this
Dowry.
token.
Dowry, yeah.
Right, like a token that you can negotiate with, or a dowry, yeah. And of course it has changed, but it still kind of carries some of that. And I've noticed that some girls kind of like unconsciously let that get to their head, and then they think, okay, let me go out and do this because now I'm 15. And also the mentality of the boys, they think, well, she's 15, kind of like fair game. I can go after that person, in this way for these intentions. So what advice would you give a girl right now, or if a mom right now who has a history of abuse in her relationship and that's all her kids have seen, what would you advise them to say to them so that they don't end up with that same, relationship and continue that cycle of being in abusive relationships?
So what I will say is this: the mother first and foremost has to have broken the cycle. And what I mean by that is you can't keep dating men like this and tell your daughter or son not to be like this. Because I've seen a lot of people say you shouldn't be with this kind of person or you shouldn't be with that person, and they're dating people that do that to them. Like, they have no self-awareness. So it's very important that you, the parent, tells them, I know you saw me be with this type of a person, and I was in a very dark place, in a place where I didn't love myself, and now I've gotten out of that place and I'm doing better to love myself. I advise the parents to go to counseling, the mother to, or the father, whoever's being abused. So we're saying the mom to go to counseling for domestic abuse, right? To really get support that she needs. She's not going to get that support from her children, and she really shouldn't expect to. That's a whole other level of children parenting their parents. So I would say that, yeah, definitely get counseling. The other thing is, let them know that, like I said, that they didn't know. But now that I know, I want to support you to say, always, when you choose your partner, make sure it's someone that respects your opinion, that supports you to be your empowered self and to speak your minds, that doesn't want you to compromise who you are. If someone's trying to isolate you from your friends, your family, your coworkers, that's not a healthy person. A person that wants to control you with money, that's not a healthy person. It's okay to want to support you, but to control you based on those things and keep you isolated from the people that love you and for achieving your dreams, those are signs of a person that, doesn't want that. And it's also if a person wants all of your time and accuses you of neglecting them. And I would do this too if I was a parent. I know a lot of Latina parents want to say, you shouldn't date, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. You need to meet the people your children are surrounded with. Invite them over. Invite them over to the house. Give your daughter, if you feel your kid isn't mature enough to date, let them know why you feel that way. We understand that you like someone, but you don't feel you're ready to commit to a person like this. You're still understanding what love is, and love is not about giving every single part of yourself to a person. It's about two people coming together that are aligned, want to love each other and support each other's lives, but not completely isolate out of the world from other people. Because teenage love feels like that. Teenage love feels like them two together against the world, and that's not always healthy. But it's yeah. So if you don't push them away, if you bring the boy home and you get to know him and you support the relationship as you're getting to know them, and I'm doing this for you because I know you want a relationship, but let's make sure it's the right one for you. And I'm not telling you not to like them, but I'm asking you because you're a smart girl and you get to have, if you're going to have tons of boys that like you. And I know you like this boy, but let's see if this boy really likes you. And versus, we don't know, he's horrible. You know what I'm saying? Ease the children into the home and invite him in and over for dinner, get to know him, get to know his parents or his guardians. This boy does not need to be having a secret life if he's dating your daughter.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you can't be near a boy, a lot of the father wanting to scare the boy, it's not always this. You can warn him, but bring him in. And, a boy that's scared is going to be probably a better boy than a boy that's not. So I think it's really important that, not complete, but respecting the parent and being a little nervous is not a bad thing. But, you don't want, if the boy is the mayor and he thinks he's got it like that, it's not always a good thing.
Yeah.
So I think it's really important that we look at, who the kid is, what values they come with. Don't judge them if they don't have parents or if they're in a situation that's dire. I think it's just really important to get to know them and educating both children on safe sex. And that's a other conversation you can have. That's something deeper. But talking to your daughter about it and bringing in a professional, you don't always have to just, if you don't know what to say, get pamphlets. There's links that I can share for it. and really having those sensitive conversations that I can share with you later. But I think that it's really important to um, be the safe space your daughter comes to
Mm-hmm.
when she's challenged. If she feels like she can't go to you, that's where the problems are going to start.
True.
So I've noticed that some of my nieces over the years have gone to their mothers because their mothers are completely an open space to talk. They
Mm-hmm.
bring their friends to talk to them with their moms
Yeah.
and about everything, sex, relationships. And it's because you're respecting them, but understanding they're young enough where you have to edit the conversation a little bit because they're not adults, but you're giving them a space to share what they're feeling. And that's really what children want.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they feel a way and they want to talk about it. But if it's always shut down, they're gonna learn it from someone else. You don't want that. You want them to learn these things from you. And what I mean is you being a safe space to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And you can research together. I think that's a really good thing. And just asking them, well, what do you think about it? Like, I've been thinking about this person or sex, or well, tell me what your thoughts are, versus you immediately want to shut it down. No, you shouldn't be having sex. They're just asking you a question.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything right now. So I think it's important that you ask them, I'm going to share with you and be supportive, sweetheart, but what are your thoughts on it? I would love to hear what you think, because you never know. They could just be just asking.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and then if you don't talk about it, you shut them down. You better believe that girl's going to figure out a secret way to have it happen. Because
Yeah.
I've seen it happen. I've seen it happen. The most religious girls having sex with their boyfriends and their parents have no clue.
Mm-hmm.
But it's about educating them. And I think I remember a parent that had their daughter reflect. One of the best things she ever did was have her daughter write in her journal, you like this boy, you have these physical feelings for him, but you don't really know him very well. How about you journal for a few weeks and come back to that choice? Just come back to it. I'm not telling you what to do. And she journaled for 3 weeks and said, I realize he doesn't really care about me, and I'm not going to have sex with him.
Mm-hmm. That's
So
awesome.
I think a lot of self-reflection at any age,
Yeah.
at any age, that's the advice I've been giving women in quarantine. Would you do this if there was no quarantine, if we weren't in a pandemic? Take a couple of steps back, because you're feeling scarcity of not being able to connect with men, right? So take a step back and make a decision with a clear mind, and a clear heart.
Yeah. I love that you just shared a few of the hints that everybody really, men and girls and boys, should look out for.
So the financial controlling, and
Mm-hmm.
controlling the finances, isolating you from your friends, family, colleagues, policing the way you interact with people,
Yeah.
not wanting you to have a conversation with anyone from the opposite sex,
Mm-hmm.
and then and then shunning you away from your friends who empower you. That's another one. That friend's problematic.
Oh, yeah.
And the other, making up stories about them, saying that listen, I could go on and on about the stories, but I will just say, like, making up stories. And then sexual abuse, that comes into play down the line, using that as a tactic to control and hurt the person. Also holding you back in your career. That's another thing, because you can grow without them. And the one that I'll touch on from the beginning is love bombing. Love bombing is when, like, people go overboard with the you and me against the world. I'm
Oh,
the only one you could depend on. I love you so much. Like, and in our culture, we're taught that that's romantic.
yeah.
We're taught that when a man professes his feelings for us,
Mm-hmm.
that is so beautiful. And it's beautiful when they're not being crazy.
Right.
Like, it's beautiful when that love is not attached to isolation.
Right.
Right. And because what you have there is a very insecure person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That they think love is control and isolation and they're looking at you as property.
Right.
I always say love bombing is like the number one red flag for me, because if you don't know me, what are you going crazy over me for?
Right.
Like, relax. Like, there's people,
Yeah.
I'm like, he just met you and he's saying these things to you. You need to be a little scared.
Another one you mentioned was gifts. And let me tell you how,
Oh,
as a teen, I remember I didn't have any romantic drama. Okay. Aside from, like, my idea of, oh, I would give it up to this guy because I was so in love with him. that was like my own internal drama that nobody really knew. But I remember I got to the military, I was 19, and I saw all of these guys buying gifts and doing things hand and foot for these girls. And I thought, well, I must be the ugly duckling because nobody's offering to do that. And little did I know I was being saved from some crazies. So,
Wow.
so even with my husband, I remember when I dated him, he was very nice and he never offered to shower me with gifts. And I always questioned, like, is this guy, is this normal? Isn't he supposed to like offer to, I don't know, give me flowers or something? And and so I think that that's a very important discussion to have too, because I asked myself that question, and now looking back, I see that I was going based off of what I was seeing of all this immature love, of, you know, the ideas that kids have of showering or buying pretty much somebody's love with gifts, or literally sometimes with money, like, hey, I'll pay your rent, or I'll do this or that. And it's confused for many. So I'm glad that you touched on the gifting part of
So
that.
I want to clarify something. So, because rent is an adult responsibility.
Yeah, yeah.
So, but, and I'm thinking if an adult with a teenager, that's a whole other topic.
Oh yeah. Hmm.
But what I was saying was that I don't think it's wrong for a partner to help you with money.
Right, that's
Um,
different.
I
Yeah.
think if someone's supporting you financially and financially, and you
Hmm.
need support, that's okay. But they should not be controlling your life because they supported you financially.
Exactly.
There's
It was
a
that.
difference between helping someone and receiving support, and the person receiving support not taking advantage of the person that did support them, because that's a two-way street. But it's very important that just because you give someone money, you do not mean you are not paying a dowry of ownership.
Right.
You are not controlling this person. You cannot do that to them. So what I'm saying is gifts are not wrong,
Hmm.
but people should not behave as if gifts give you the right to, treat a person in a way that's disrespectful, control a person, and act like you have a say in everything they do. So I don't want girls to not think gifts aren't good, because that's also something that's not healthy as an adult.
Right. Hmm.
But recognize this person gave you this gift because they like you, not because they own you, not because you owe them, not because you own them and you're not obligated. But
Right.
it's a gesture. Say thank you, and that is all. You
Right.
do not need to keep proving yourself to someone because they bought you a present. Be respectful, but if they're not respectful to you, that is not someone you need in your life. You have a whole life ahead of you where you can receive gifts, where you can give gifts, and where you'll learn that someone that really values you may not have the money to buy you gifts. So
Right.
don't base someone's desire and love for you based on presents.
Hmm.
Base it on their presence in your life and how they show up consistently.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that I guess you could play into the whole love languages on
Yes.
how people love to show affection, genuine affection, and how people like to receive. And yeah, I'm so glad that we touched on that, because I think I see that in middle school with my kids as friends, them having that discussion and them already having those um, arguments with their partner, saying, well, he bought me this, so I feel like I have to do that, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not good. And like you said, yeah, it's good to, it is healthy to receive gifts. It's just not when they have conditions tied to them.
Exactly. Because I mean, I'll even share that I didn't want to receive flowers because I was freaked out. I was like, no, then he thinks he owns me.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like, no, like I used to, because, and then also like, what are you really going to do if like you give me these flowers? Like I used to always think that when I was really, really young. And then my dad had told me, like, don't trust the boy that buys you flowers, maybe doing something wrong. Like, because he was being ridiculously overprotective.
Hmm.
But yeah, he buys my mom flowers for holidays and whatever, and they're just genuine gifts. But I just know that like I was always like extra cautious about it. But then I learned over time, like, no, like if someone cares about you, they're gonna give you they can show you they care for you through a gift. And
Yeah.
there's something wrong with that. But if you did something wrong, a flowers isn't gonna always make up that, not for me. It
Hmm.
won't make up for it. Really addressing what the miscommunication, how you hurt someone, is how you rectify situations and demonstrate that you won't do it again. So it's really important to know that presence do not rectify behavior in an individual when they're disrespectful, or whatever the case may be. So just try to understand, like, that gifts are an expression of emotion.
Mm-hmm.
They're not an expression of change or rectifying things.
Right. Yeah. You are a coach. So what type of services can you offer viewers if they're interested in learning more about how you can help them?
Well, if you're interested in doing coaching with me, you can go to my website, lisatalkslove.com, and you can see what I have available there. Also, if you want to set up a session with me, and if you're just like ready to go, just send me an email at lisa@lisatalkslove.com and let me know what it is you'd like to discuss, and we can look at what type of love coaching I can support you with, whether it's self-love, whether that's how you talk to your daughter. And I also offer couples coaching for love coaching in relationship, to look at how they can do a romantic reboot. I do a couples love breakthrough session. It's a 90-minute session we do on Zoom, and we go in and dig deep, and we look at, what the values you have for yourself and the relationship are, to look at, are they aligned, and how they can get realigned if they're not. So that's what I offer. You can, like I said, lisatalkslove.com. You can check it out there. Or, like I said, if you directly want to share exactly what it is you're going through right now, and to see if we're a fit, you can email me at lisa@lisatalkslove.com.
Thank
And you
you.
can follow me on Instagram. I
Yeah.
always forget that one. You can follow me on Instagram at Lisa Talks Love.
Definitely. I'll make sure that my viewers know where to find you. And do you have any type of events coming up in the near future? Any workshops or things of that sort?
So you can, the one that I'm working on right now is doing love brunch and self-love sessions. So I would say, get on my newsletter list to know when that's going to happen. I don't want to give the dates out because of what the current events. I've had to shift a lot of things, and I don't want to send out, say, dates when we're not ready to do that. So what I would like for you to do is to go to my website and subscribe to my newsletter, and you'll get updates about exactly when the events are.
Perfect. Thank you so much for your time. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think that we touched on a lot of very, very important topics, because if people don't have the chance to get some coaching sessions with you, at least they have a lot of very valuable tips that you provided
Yes.
for them or for their children. So thank you for taking the time to come on to the show.
Thank you for having me, Dolly. It's been a pleasure. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm definitely here for you as a resource.
Thank you. One last question. If you could give any mom or daughter any advice as a last statement or anything, what would it be?
I would say to both the daughter and the mom, you have the opportunity to build the most beautiful bond you could ever experience with another female. The daughter-mother bond is something so beautiful. And I would want to say that, to trust that you both matter, you both are enough, and you both are valuable, and honor yourselves. I would say start taking on self-love practices and self-care practices together. Commit to a time during the week where you just have mommy-daughter time, and just relax and talk to each other about what's on your hearts, for one another, and what you love about each other. And if something's bothering you, confide in each other, and just be a space to listen and love one another. There's nothing better than a bond and deeper than a bond with your mother and a daughter. Seeing the evolution of two females, right? In your bloodline, in your family. I just think it's the most beautiful thing. So take the time to do a self-care practice together, and also teach each other to do one by yourselves, to honor the self part, right? So just do that. The self-care practices for yourselves together to bond, and one on your own to honor and practice that self-love.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dolly.
Well, there you have it, folks. Lisa has shared with us some really great tips on how we can teach young girls and single moms to practice self-love and to overcome the cultural barriers that sometimes prevent us from doing that. And she shared some really good tips on signs you should look out for if you think you might be in a really bad relationship. You can check out more about Lisa at lisatalkslove.com, and you can follow her at Lisa Talks Love on Instagram. If you like this video, click like, subscribe, and I invite you to come on over to dalitalks.com and subscribe to my newsletter. That way you're always informed about upcoming episodes, upcoming events, and other insights. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.